Welcome, and welcome back. Yes, today we got the combat relics, so let's take a look at what kind of powers they are giving us. The first one is Last Stand. If damage would take you to 0 HP, in other words, if it would finish you off, you instead go to 1 HP, your combat stats are going to be instantly boosted to 255, and for the next 16 ticks after this, you can't be killed. Now keep in mind those 255 stats, they are going to drain over this period. And when the effect ends, all of the incoming damage is nullified, meaning like they're not going to just last hit you, as this runs out. So it gives you a little bit of a buffer. And you're going to heal based on the damage that was dealt over this 16 ticks. This does have a 3-minute cooldown or until you die, so if you wanted to use it faster, I mean, you've got that option available to you. So what is this thing gonna be good for? Pretty much any of the hard content that you can think of. So any of the echo bosses, if you're doing Coliseum runs, I mean, a 3-minute cooldown in some of these wave-based minigames, you're gonna be able to use it multiple times and help you get through things like the Inferno. So it's gonna be really good for that. They had a similar relic last year where when you died, you do a sort of like AoE explosion thing, but it still had that same sort of like 3-minute cooldown, bring you back to full HP. As someone who took that last year, it was really helpful in the Inferno. I ended up using it, I think 2 or 3 times on my successful run, because yeah, sometimes you're gonna get some really tough waves, or, if you make a mistake fighting the Jads or fighting Zuck, this type of relic can make that much easier for you. Not to mention the stats that are coming with this and the damage you're going to be able to do. And because I don't think ticks are like the most understandable, or they're not like the most meaningful thing. In terms of some weapons, if you are at tier 5 or above in the combat masteries, this is how many attacks you get during that time. And again, remember, you can't be killed during this window. So you can basically just stand still and straight up deal damage. And you're going to be dealing a lot of damage because your stats are super boosted. So if you're using something like a blowpipe, the Drygore blowpipe, you're getting a full 16 attacks on that. Again, this is if you're at Mastery 5 or higher, so you've got that 50% attack speed going on. If you're using a 5-tick weapon like the Mega Rares, you're going to get 8 attacks. And if you're using something like Darox, and I think Darox is one where it actually has a pretty interesting interaction, right? Because you are locked to 1 HP, so you're not going to die. Darox gets that damage buff from being low HP, plus your strength level is super high. You're going to get 5 swings of your Darok axe during this time. So I think you're going to be able to hit extremely high with this, probably in like the 300 or 400 range, and that's not including like the different echo hits you might get off of this as well. You're getting a small window of time to do some really, really big damage. And of course, it's going to help you get multiple chances to like make it through some of this harder content. And I think especially because we've got echo bosses, right? If you are someone who is worried about beating the echo bosses or beating the Inferno, I think this one is going to be really helpful for you. The second relic that we got is the Guardian. This is going to give you a Guardian Horn, which is going to let you summon a Guardian Thrall that lasts for 30 minutes. Now, again, they had a similar relic to this last year. This thing is going to be extremely accurate. It attacks at a whip speed. It can do AoE attacks if you're in multi-combat and the thing is weak to range or magic. So the equivalent of using Chins or Ancients, if that makes sense. And it has a minimum hit of 5 and a max hit of 13. So I believe that's a lower hit than the last time we got this type of relic, but it is just going to be generally good, consistent damage. And it is going to work inside of the gauntlet as well, so it can help you out with that. Anyone who doesn't have GP to buy a girlfriend, doesn't have a diamond ring, I know the economy out there, it's tough. This relic is going to solve all of your problems. Jokes aside though, what this is really going to be good for. So again with the echo bosses, but also in things like raids, because this can help kind of offset your off styles. Now, granted, with how the masteries are set up, you're probably gonna have 2 out of 3 styles covered pretty well. So I don't know that this is necessarily like the strongest thing to take. A lot of bosses, you can take them down so long as you have 2 styles to choose from. But there are certainly mechanics that are going to require all 3, and most of those tend to be in the raids. We may see some of that in the echo bosses as well. So this can just kind of help fill that gap, bring your damage up a little bit on those off styles, and just consistently doing damage over time. So if you're in something again like the Inferno, if you take a hit, then, you know, you're probably going to be eating, you're probably going to be like focusing on where you're standing, moving around, switching your prayers, all of these other mechanics, and just having this Guardian up can kind of help to slowly tick things down. It allows you not to necessarily have to focus on DPS. Of course, you as the player, you're going to do the most damage, so this isn't going to be like the highest DPS if you're sitting there like chomping down a bunch of sharks or what have you, but just being able to have this thing consistently ticking down on a boss, on a tough mob, whatever it may be, it can be helpful. Now, the last relic is the Specialist Relic. This is a special attack focused relic, the one that we've been waiting for to kind of make the dog sword good, you know. All special attack costs are going to be 20%. All of the special attacks have a plus 100% accuracy. If you happen to fail the special, you're going to get a refund of 10% of your attack energy back. And whenever you kill an NPC, you're going to get 15% of your special attack energy back. Now, again, this is really going to be for any of those like larger hitting, very expensive special attacks, which I think in this context is mostly going to be the Dog Sword or the Wilderness Sword. Both of these use 50% attack energy and have really powerful effects. So by picking up this relic, you're reducing that special cost down to 20%. You're giving yourself a lot of ability to regen that special in a number of ways. So if you're doing a build around one of... Shush. So if you're doing a build around one of those two items, then this one starts to make a little more sense, I think. There are also some other big hitting weapons out there. You've got things like the Volatile Nightmare Staff, the Heavy Ballista, the Zerite Crossbow, a couple of melee options as well that are probably going to get some good use out of this. Particularly the Zerite Crossbow, since it is guaranteeing a bolt special every time you use it. This one, again, is going to be really strong. Plus, there are a lot of like utility or fun special attacks out there. Obviously, there's a lot of special attacks in the game, so I'm not going to be able to like realistically put all of those in here. Not all of them are really getting that much benefit out of this because, again, you kind of need something that has like a really expensive special attack to get a lot of value out of this. But there are other options available to you to kind of fully take advantage of this relic. Now, one thing I do want to say, we already know that there is this Total Recall relic, which saves your special attack energy. So if you're going to be killing things that are outside of instances, which are going to be in situations like Slayer for the most part, there are a lot of bosses in the Wilderness, for example, that also aren't instanced, so you're able to like save a spot there, save your special right next to the NPC or the boss, and you can still endlessly special without the need for the special attack relic. Yes, it does give you more accuracy, so your specials are going to hit more. It is going to mean you have to use the Total Recall a little bit less, but really, you're not going to get quite as much value, I think, out of the special attack relic if you went for the Total Recall relic. Granted, the special attack relic is giving you more value in an instanced boss, so there are still some situations where you may want to see that. Like, you could still use the Total Recall and the special together to kill things like the God Wars bosses, where you may not be able to take them down in like 2 or 3 specials. This is going to guarantee that you get 5 special attacks with any of the weapons. So yes, there are situations where these can work together, but I don't love this combo a whole lot personally. I think both of these are doing similar jobs, so I don't know that I would take both of these together, but something to think about. Now, between the 3 of these, kind of like my general recommendation for people, if you're more on the casual side, you're a little bit worried about doing some of that higher end content, I think that the Guardian Angel here is gonna be the best bet, because especially for things like the Inferno, where it is a long run to get to the end, you're not even spending a lot of time on like the final big boss. You're spending a lot of time getting to that. So having something that can kind of help you pick up for mistakes that you're making, I think is extremely helpful. And this also is going to allow you to do quite a lot of damage during those windows where you are invulnerable. So you may be able to do things like cheese down an Echo Dagonoth King to kind of like help lower the difficulty even further for certain situations, right? So I think for most people, this is probably going to be the best choice. Now, if you don't want that sort of handicap for yourself, maybe you want a little bit more of a challenge, or you are a little bit more competent on the PVM side, then I think that the Guardian Relic is probably going to be more DPS, just because the uptime is like 100%. The Guardian Thrall is super, super accurate. it's going to be doing decent damage. The longer the fights are, it's going to be out there just kind of like slowly pumping out that damage as well. I think this one is going to fill those slots a lot better. So if you're not worried about doing that end-game content as well, then this can be helpful for you. So if you've already decided, you know what, I'm not going to worry about the Inferno, I don't even want to try, I just want to blow through all of the bosses that I can, then I think this one is probably going to be helpful for you there. And then the special attack relic, really, really niche, I think. If you want to do that dog sword build, great. You want to do the wilderness blade, that sort of build, great. There's a couple other weapons that I might pick this from, like if you did a ballista build, for example, then yeah, you know, this one might be kind of fun. But otherwise, I think you're going for one of these other two. And we are getting really close, I think, to knowing all of the relics. We have only got 2 days of reveals left. Maybe that'll be day 1, day 2. Maybe they'll do something a little bit different. We'll just have to see in the next couple of days. But I do think that the combat relics are probably going to be here on the end, the final tier of the relics. Once we do know all of the relics, I am intending to go through every single one of those tiers and talk through what that decision can look like based on the different areas that you're going and things like that. But for now, this is how things are shaking out. That is all I have got for you. So make sure to subscribe if you want to see more Leagues content. I have got my Discord linked in the description down below, and I will be streaming the start of the league. It is going to start November 27th, only a couple more days to go, at 6 a.m. Central. I'm going to start my stream a couple hours after that at 9 a.m. Central. So if you want to stop by, hang out, then you'll be able to find me here. So with that, thanks for watching, and I will catch you tomorrow.